I'm so excited to bring up Mitchell Weisman, CEO of RevJet.
Boom.
Boom! Boom! Boom!
It always starts with a boom. I mean, the big, like the generational, transformational opportunities in history, they all start the same way. Something goes boom.
Let me just tell you something. It was hot. It was hot that day. I'm talking about July in Chicago, the humidity. It was hot. It was a Saturday, sweating, no air conditioning in the building. So this is the American Medical Association building. We're on the 21st floor, right? All glass skyscraper, hot July day, like a sweatshop for real. And the reason is that this guy, Barry Sternlicht, he wouldn't pay for air conditioning. The guy would not pay for air conditioning, right? So skyscrapers are air conditioned during the week, but we worked 7 days a week, and on the weekend we were in subleased ad agency space. This was a real estate company, right? But you got to call down to engineering, and you got to actually ask them to turn on the air conditioning, and then you got to pay for it. And it was expensive, and Barry wouldn't pay. This was me. So I was just out of college, and having graduated from Penn. And the reason I bring this up is there have only been 2 times in my life that I've seen really like enormous opportunities where they've been sitting like right in front of me, where I had a chance to actually participate in something really big. And this was the first one. And it was with Barry Sternlicht, who was this young hotshot. He was the youngest partner at a firm called JMB Realty. At the time, it was a $30 billion real estate firm. And he was the guy. He was the first guy that saw an opportunity that was just enormous. And in retrospect, we all know how big it was. But at the time, we were 5 guys in an office. And we were talking about real estate at a firm called Starwood Capital. And what Barry said on that Saturday, as we are sweating, like sweat beads rolling down our nose, is this. He said, I think if we move quickly, we could build the largest hotel company in the world. Now stop and think about that for a minute, right? He's a 32-year-old guy. He says, if we move quickly, we can build the largest hotel company in the world? Guess how many hotels Starwood owned when he said that? Anyone? The answer is 0. None. Nada. But this is what he said, and this is what he became, and this is what he built. Right? Starwood Hotels and Resorts, and in fact, world's largest hotel company. In fact, just 60 days ago, merged with Marriott to form the world's largest hotel company. Back to 1993. So how did Barry do it? Because we're going to talk about an opportunity that is larger than this one, and it's right in front of us right now. And you all can participate in it. So please consider this a roadmap to the conversation that we're going to have today about how truly big opportunities are won and lost. And in particular, we're going to spend most of our time on the largest opportunity affecting digital marketing right now, because it's right in front of you and how you can get after it. But this is the way it happens, right? It starts with something going boom, and all of a sudden there's a big opportunity, and suddenly it's in plain sight. And there will be winners, and there will be losers. And you get to choose, which is the empowering, exciting part. You get to choose whether you're going to win or you're going to lose. Introduction. So my name is Mitchell Weisman. That's my kid. He's Holden. Now he's 9. His birthday party was this weekend. That's his fish. But just by way of background, so I've been in marketing technology for a while. The early part of my career was in private equity, investment banking, and then at Starwood Capital. And then for the last while, so I was the founder and CEO of LifeStreet Media, which became the #1 ad provider to Facebook app developers, and more recently launched RevJet, which is exciting. We'll hear a little bit more about that. But so what did Barry do? What went boom? What did he see? Like, what can you see that would allow you to have the brashness and boldness to say, we're going to build the largest hotel company in the world? And then what did he do about it? Well, this was the boom. Believe it or not, as boring as it looks. The Tax Reform Acts of 1981 and 1986. President Ronald Reagan came along and he said, you know what? We're going to change all the rules on the tax shelters, and we're going to change the way depreciation is calculated. In fact, commercial real estate is going to have to be depreciated over a much longer period of time. That's a lot of fancy financial gobbledygook to say that suddenly owning commercial real estate is less valuable. You have to pay much more tax after the stroke of the pen there, much more tax. And all of a sudden, real estate projects that were perfectly economic are no longer economic, right? Destroying real estate through the tax code. And oh, by the way, what followed was a savings and loan crisis and a banking crisis. In fact, here's a little bit of history. This is actually going back to 1970. You can see these years between 1986, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91. Bank failures were through the roof. Do you know why? Because real estate became less valuable. What do banks lend against? A whole lot of real estate. When the real estate values go down, all of a sudden, the loans default, right? So real estate values are destroyed. Banks and thrifts are failing. Foreclosures are skyrocketing. Lending, by the way, completely stopped because people are losing money, head over elbow. And as these foreclosures happen, suddenly the real estate, which should be owned by real estate people, is all of a sudden owned by banks or by savings and loans. And then, by the way, as their balance sheets get ugly, along comes the US government, taps them on the shoulder and says, hello, bank, you're bankrupt and we're insuring your deposits. We'll take the assets back. So suddenly all the commercial real estate, like a ridiculous percentage of the world's commercial real estate is suddenly owned by banks, thrifts, insurance companies, and the US government. Not natural real estate owners. They're lenders, they're not real estate owners, and they all wanted to sell. Let's talk for a moment about hotels. Because commercial real estate, right, there's multifamily apartments, there's industrial space and manufacturing space, there's retail, there's strip malls, there's luxury malls, there's Class A office space, but the worst of the worst in 1993 were hotels. The financials were just terrible. Vacancy was through the roof. There were foreclosures. Construction projects just stopped. You'd see cranes around cities where hotel projects had been abandoned. And oh, by the way, in 1993, something else was baked into the numbers we were looking at. And it was something that happened actually a couple years earlier. In 1991, it was the first Gulf War. I don't know if any of you were around for the first Gulf War. It was in August of 1991. But do you know what happened when the news started of that invasion of Kuwait? I'll tell you what happened. The whole world stopped traveling. Stopped traveling. So the intrinsic value of hotels were getting crushed, and you had this sort of temporary blip where occupancy of hotels was going down, and the point is, these hotels just looked terrible. And so 32-year-old Barry Sternlicht says, if we move quickly, we could build the biggest hotel company in the world. And 32-year-old Barry Sternlicht turns to 23-year-old Mitchell and says, hey, Mitchell, here's my question for you. If we could buy any hotels in any market anywhere in the world, where should we start buying and why? And so this was my first project for him. This was published in September of 1993, the Starwood Hotel Market Research Report. Again, this is before we owned any of these hotels, and there's the memo, right? From Mitch to Barry, September 7th, 1993. I began this project with the idea that someone else had probably done this type of analysis or does it on a routine basis and viewed my job as going out and finding it. But after chasing down information from myriad sources, I've concluded that the best and most meaningful analysis comes basically from common sense. From common sense. When big disruptive things happen, it usually starts with a boom. Something happens. Boom.
Boom. Boom! Boom! Boom!
And you don't always recognize it when you see it, but something goes boom, right? You have to see the opportunity that's right in front of you, and you have to actually act on it, right? And so that's what Barry did. I am so fired up to be able to be in business today to talk about this next opportunity. Because this one is so much bigger. And this is the stuff we already know, the booms that we already know, right? banking, commerce, advertising, it's all moving online. It's moving online fast, big time, right? Global ad spend, we're spending over $500 billion a year now buying advertising. And by the way, nearly half of that is now digital, and it's on its way over any 10-year horizon to 70 or 80%. In fact, here's a metric for you. I find this mind-melting. 1 year from today, digital ad spend will be larger than television, right? By late 2017, advertisers will be spending more money buying digital ads than traditional TV ads. This is a big deal, right? Setting the scene. Marketing data is finally organized, right? We hear about these DMPs. This is cool, right? So you as marketers are able to have all of your customer data and prospect data organized in the same way that you did with CRM, but now for purposes of facilitating marketing. 85% of large enterprises either have a DMP or are in the process of procuring a DMP in the next 6 months. So DMPs have gone mainstream. So have DSPs, the ability to buy audiences, right? So the days when you used to have to buy advertising, you'd buy reach and frequency against targeted demographics, right? So you'd have this proxy of your audience. A gentleman that I was speaking with in the back there from John Hancock, right? He wants to reach people maybe who are affluent. Maybe they read a golfing magazine, and maybe you'd buy, a full-page ad next to the first article in a golf magazine as an approximation of your audience, right? But guess what? Customers for John Hancock, they're not just golfers. They're all over the place. Well, now in the age of audience-based advertising, you can go buy that media, right? So $500 billion, actually $600 billion a year being spent by advertisers, and the data's organized, and now you can buy audiences. It's all set up, right? And there's an enormous opportunity, $1 trillion opportunity that is there for the world's advertisers, for you. Part of this, you own part of this. You already own it. And the question is whether you're gonna move against it. And here's the opportunity. Do you see it? Does anyone see it? It's hiding in plain sight. There it is, you see it? All right, I'll give context. So, Microsoft, their centralized marketing org had a campaign going where they were targeting college students. They wanted to promote Office 365 to college students, right? And so they got their audiences defined with their DMP, and they worked with DSPs to go buy against those audiences. Super cool stuff. Well, guess what? Do you see that ad up there that came from the agency? Well, what if I told you if they showed that one, this new one, that they were going to drive 122% more customers? I'm going to repeat that. Simply by showing that one instead of the first one, the ad impressions that Microsoft was already buying and had already paid for could produce 122% more customers for free without one nickel more of media cost. When you back up from that, what does that mean? That means the world's $600 billion a year ad spend can be producing 50%, 100%, 500% more customers, more prospective leads, more economic value with no extra media cost. We're talking about $1 trillion a year of cash flow that is there for the advertisers. This is teed up, and this is the ad creative opportunity, and it's yours. Right? So, question number one. What if the ad impressions that you're already buying could produce 50% or 500% more customers, revenue, brand impact with no extra media spend at all? And what if that were effortless? This is what is at hand, right? And what if every time, because I know what you'll tell me is, well, how do we know? How do we know which of these ad creatives, how do you know that that ad creative is going to generate 122% more value than that ad creative? Well, what if I told you that Ad creatives now can be just automatically trafficked into perfect self-optimizing performance competitions without any effort. You put those two things together, and there's $1 trillion a year opportunity, and it's not being acted upon, right? So here's a little chart. You can see on the left the 3 layers of a platform, right? There's the audience platform, or the DMP, right? This has gone mainstream. Folks have organized their data. The second layer, the media buying layer, for audience-based advertising, also has gone mainstream. 85% of US ad buyers have already adopted media buying platforms, so PMDs and DSPs and so forth. But the third one, where is it? Where's the opportunity for the ad creative? Where's the one that unlocks the fact that your ad impressions can be driving 100% more value with no extra media cost? Well, that's the company that we've launched, and we're doing really cool stuff. More about that later. By the way, Microsoft tried a whole bunch of different treatments in this particular campaign. But again, how do you know? Well, here's how you know. You experiment. And what if this just happened automatically? So what you're looking at now there are those 4 ad creatives promoting Office 365 to college students. They may look the same, but now they're organized into an experiment. By the way, took no effort to set it up. On the left, you have a control. You can see it's labeled up top, control. And then you have Challenger A, Challenger B, and Challenger C. Push run, and now the ads are live. And the moment that the system is becoming 90% confident, or 95% confident, or 85% confident, that, for example, Challenger A is simply not going to be the best performer, and that Challenger B is producing 122% more than Challenger A, the system automatically ends phase 1 of the experiment, automatically pauses, in this case Challenger A, and automatically launches phase 2. Right? And the moment the system becomes 95% confident that, in fact, the control is not going to be the best performer. And this was the idea that came out of the creative agency, right? The system automatically pauses. It ends phase 2 of the experiment, launches phase 3. No human effort, right? And on, and before you know it, you end up with a Challenger B, in this case, that performs 122% better than the least performing ad, and 65% better than the control, with no extra media cost, in this case for Microsoft, right? By the way, what they did next, who's to say that those were the best ideas anyway? So here are some very different looking ads. In fact, the one on the left is the one that produced 65% more value. But here are a bunch of very different looking creatives. And by the way, this particular group was almost entirely focused on performance. There are other partners that we have that are much more focused on brand and brand compliance. So these are all pre-approved ads, but look at what happens. They go ahead and launch this, and this Challenger A now produces 400% more customers from the ad impressions they were already buying for no extra media cost. And this is 400% more customers than the better ad creative, than the ad creative that was already producing 65% more customers, right? So this opportunity, when I say that the world's $500 billion, $600 billion actually advertising spend can now go 50% or 300% or 500% further, when I say that there's an extra $1 trillion a year that is available to the world's advertisers with no extra media cost, it's there. It's sitting there. And this is the second situation in my life where I felt a little bit crazy in a business situation where I'm looking at this opportunity. The magnitude is just so large, and yet, and it's hiding in plain sight, just like the Barry Sternlicht Hotel opportunity. It was there for everyone to see. But he saw it, and he acted quickly. And just like then, here with the ad creative opportunity, there will be winners and there will be losers. So let's talk a little bit about what the losers are going to do. Let's talk a little bit about what the winners are going to do. And most importantly, let's talk about how you can win. The people who are going to lose are afraid to fail. The people who are engaged in opinion-driven marketing, right? Their ad creatives are based on opinions, not data. The people who are going to lose adopt kind of one-size-fits-all ad creatives, or one-size-fits-most. They show the same ad creative over and over and over for long periods of time, and they show those ad creatives to all their users. And finally, the winners are going to prioritize their audience rather than the advertising. We'll talk about that in a moment. So let's use an example of United Airlines, who embodies all of these things. And by the way, I'm originally from Chicago. It saddens my heart to use United Airlines as an example of what not to do, but here's an example of opinion-driven marketing. A couple years ago, United Airlines brought back Fly the Friendly Skies, which is fantastic in theory, except people don't like United. They have a terrible reputation. United receives more passenger complaints than any other airline. Here's an article. I wonder if they read this. 15 reasons why flying United Airlines sucks. And I'm not sure if the marketer read this one either. All you have to do is go over to Consumer Affairs, where they have a 1-star rating because it doesn't go to 0. And even here's a recent one, right? So Bloomberg, United's quest to be less awful. Now you talk about so marketers, and we're marketers, right? I'm guilty, I've done it. We get in a room, we brainstorm, we get excited about ideas. I get excited about ideas. And then we think they're gonna work. But and a lot of times the person with the most senior title in the room ends up winning the argument because of their title. But this is opinion-driven marketing as opposed to data-driven, customer-driven marketing, right? A second characteristic of losing behavior is one-size-fits-all ad creatives, right? So here, United Airlines, here's a 56-year-old CEO who has million-mile status on United, just like my colleague Patrick Meehan, who runs sales. Patrick, raise your hand. He's a million-mile flyer on United. Give him a hand. By the way, he'll have contracts after this talk. But, right, so he's affluent, he's married, he has 3 kids. What should we show him in this? We have an opportunity to show him an ad. Let's show him this. United Airlines, find the best United fares online at united.com, search flights. Okay, different situation. Sarah Fuentes, very different than the first gentleman, very different than Patrick. 21-year-old college student, flies to California a few times a year. She's not loyal to any brand, she's single. We have an opportunity to talk to her. What should we say? Oh, find the best United fares online from united.com, search flights. Oh, we have a third opportunity with Jamie Erickson. She's 32, she takes 1 vacation, she's married. We have an opportunity to talk to her. Hey, let's tell her to find the best United fares online at united.com, search flights. In fact, this is mode. Here are United Airlines ads that are running right now. Do they look similar? They kind of look similar, right? The same thing over and over. And by the way, they're doing this for a long time. So you can see here, this ad has been running since June. We're coming up on 6 months. They've been saying the same thing to everybody. And by the way, that's a terrible idea. So we have the data now. Ad fatigue kills performance over time. You keep showing the same thing to people, it performs worse and worse and worse, and United Airlines continues to lose market share. What do the winners do? The winners put digital first. The winners embrace ad creative transformation. The winners use data-driven ad creatives, not opinion-driven. The winners have a fail-forward culture. They're willing to try things. And their ad creatives are anchored in audience advocacy. Let's talk about putting digital first. Home Depot is an $88.5 billion company. Their average ticket is $29. When you scan the cash register, the average ticket is $29. Their online business is only $5 billion, but the average ticket price is $220, right? So this little $5 billion business, compared to the $88.5 billion total, is growing at 30% per year. The average ticket size is 700% higher than their average ticket. So people are changing their behavior. Your customers are doing business online, and it's not just like any of your customers, it's the ones who matter. So what did Home Depot do to put digital first? They made a change earlier this year. So Trish Mueller, who was chief marketing officer for 5 years, resigned because they promoted online president Kevin Hoffman, right? Replaced by online operations Kevin Hoffman. He now holds the title of head of online and chief marketing officer because Home Depot knows there are going to be winners and losers. Their whole business is up for grabs and they want to win. Let's talk quickly about anchoring ad creatives in audience advocacy. So here's the thing. Most ads suck, and the big reason why is that the advertisers focus on bragging about their products, and it's only natural we want to brag about our products. But you got to think about the audience. When you are an advertisement, you are not the focus of attention, you're a distraction. You're not a movie, you're not a Broadway play, you're a commercial. And so you have to earn a glance. If you don't earn a glance, you get nothing out of your advertisement. You have to earn a dwell. Somebody has to actually spend time there. They have to understand what it is they're supposed to do, and then they have to want to learn more. I'm going to show you an example of somebody who does this well and somebody who does this poorly in the insurance industry. So Geico. I'm going to show you a Geico commercial. Ask yourself what percentage of their advertising did they spend on bragging about auto insurance as opposed to focusing on the audience and earning some attention.
Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Ronnie, how happy are folks who save hundreds of dollars switching to Geico? I'd say happier than a camel on Wednesday.
Hump day!
Get happy. Get Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Right, so these guys are audience advocates. They're spending their time earning your attention, and then the pitch is just very simple. 15 minutes may save you 15% on car insurance once they've got your attention. But 99% of ads fail, right? Because they never get your attention. I'm going to show you an example from Allstate. Now, notice how nobody's going to be paying attention to this one because they're just not earning your attention and they're talking about auto insurance.
Here's a question. If you needed your insurance, who would you call? Not the name of the company, but the name of the person.
Is this boring enough?
You've got 2 seconds. Coming up blank.
Is anyone
you may
paying
want to
attention to
consider
this?
Allstate. You'd have a local agent you can count on.
Like seriously?
A licensed professional whose name you know, not just a number. You deserve a relationship.
I mean,
with a
this
real
is
person.
the
That's
epitome
Allstate's stand.
of advertiser advocacy. He's talking about the creditworthiness of the ad insurance company, of the auto insurance company. When you get in a crash, by the way, is the first thing that you're thinking about, like, am I in good hands? Is my insurance company going to have enough money to fix my bumper? Like, come on. And maybe this is why Allstate's losing. So here's Cher, right? You may not like the Gecko, and you might not like Flo from Progressive, but they're winning. They're winning. Audience advocacy, and you can win. Here's how. This is Diana Choksi. She is head of media technology and ad ops at Microsoft's centralized marketing org. She embraced these approaches, and she went and started to experiment. What this says here is that Diana launched 24 experiments. 33 experiments were launched. We were, by the way, allowed to share the first 8 weeks of data. So we have Microsoft's permission to share this. So they'd intended to launch 1 or 2 experiments. In the first 8 weeks, they launched 33 because the results were so compelling. 24 were completed. They're all complete now. 22 out of the 24 experiments, over 90%, produced a better performing ad, produced lift. And on average, they were driving 102% lift. What does that mean? That means they came up with an ad creative that was now producing 102% more customers from the ad impressions they were already buying, with no extra media cost, right? And this is why Diana's boss's boss said, hey, I want everything running on RevJet. And it's easy to see sort of why. We'll walk through one last example, right? So this is a business-to-business example where Microsoft is promoting Microsoft Dynamics, and you'll see how they get 1,000% more customer leads from the ad impressions they're already buying with no extra media cost. Right, so the goal was to drive qualified leads for Microsoft Dynamics Salesforce. They bought 32 million very expensive impressions, and this is where they started, a highly produced but poorly performing ad creative. And this would have run on all of the impressions, but instead, Microsoft was able to, and again, imagine this is now effortless, was able to cycle through many different ad concepts, many different variants, right? To see what works better with zero additional media cost. And that experimentation is rewarded because they end up with 1,000% more customers. So this ad produced over 1,000% more customers than the original ad with no extra media cost, right? So if you look on the left here, the original ad on those 32 million impressions would have driven 148 leads, 148. Instead, through this experimentation, they actually produced almost 1,200 leads. Now, by the way, if they did nothing more, right, with these 25 different concepts, if they did nothing more than continue to run the best performing ad creative at that point, the next 32 million impressions, same price, no extra media cost, would have driven 1,700 leads as opposed to 148. Right, 1,000% more. But of course, they're not going to do that. They're going to continue experimenting and probably end up with over 2,000 leads. So this stuff is powerful. It's an enormous opportunity, and it's front and center, and it's sitting there for you right now. My little plug to wrap it up. So we've built the RevJet Ad Creative Operating System, and we are the first and only company that is focused on unlocking this $1 trillion a year, which belongs to advertisers, and they just haven't been able to get at it. Right, the first and only comprehensive platform allowing you to effortlessly produce and personalize and approve and serve and automatically optimize digital ad creatives of any format, on any inventory, on any device. And imagine, I'll leave you with this thought, imagine having all of your ad creatives at your fingertips for the first time, where if I asked you, show me all your ad creatives, where you were actually organized, and you could see every one of them, like what's running right now, what ran last month, what ran last year, alongside all of the performance data and all of the production data. What worked well, what worked poorly, who produced it, who approved it, all of this stuff. So we'll leave you with this advice, and we will thank you for your time. Go to work tomorrow against this ad creative opportunity because it is transformative, and there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. Put digital first, embrace ad creative transformation, be data-driven, not opinion-driven with your marketing, be curious, be organized, create a fail-forward culture, make it okay to try things, right? And anchor your ad creative design in audience advocacy, which hopefully we've embodied some of that today, right? Tailoring your ad creative to be engaging for your audience. So with that, I want to say thank you for all of your time. I want to wish you all well. Again, Patrick Meehan is right over there, the head of sales, my little commercial. But thank you guys. I hope it's been a great conference. Thanks for your time.